Hi all, welcome in next video of Web API. So in the previous video, like we completed one action method get user details by ID, which is actually fetching the details from the Oracle databases. Okay, so we learned pretty much on the last video how to connect with the database, how entity framework is working, how we are connecting through the ADO.NET, and how we are creating the tables and schemas in Oracle databases. Okay, so I hope you guys have already done the activity on a previous video so that it would be helpful for you to understand the next concept. Okay, without completing of that, it will not be easier you to understand what we are going to do next. Okay, so until you're not completing, it would be difficult for you to understand. So if you're not completed the previous one method, so please go on a previous video and complete that. Okay, so firstly we discussed about one get method, one action get action method. Okay, which is actually responsible for like fetching the details from the Oracle database. Okay, which is like get user details by ID. Let me see, show you on real. Okay, so this was the method get user details by ID. Okay, so we completed this method on a last video. So how it is connecting with the business logic layer, how it is connecting with the database layer, and how database layer is interacting with the Oracle databases using the ADO.NET. Okay, so if you guys not yet completed this, so please go ahead and complete it. Then we will be discussing about further for today's topic. Okay, so like in today's discussion we are going to discuss about four different topics. Okay, so firstly we will learn about the dependency injections lifetime. Okay, then we will be understanding the hooks, HTTP hooks, which we were mostly using in .NET Core. It was not in .NET framework. Okay, so hooks and lifetime both are a very much new for the .NET Core because these concepts were not introduced in .NET framework. So both are the new concept introduced in .NET Core. Okay. Then afterwards we will be discussing about delete method. So yesterday we discussed about the get method, so we will be discussing about the delete, and if we get the more time, so we will be discussing about the post method as well. Okay, so let's start. So why I come to put this point like dependency injections lifetime and HTTP hooks. Okay, so why I put this topic in between, like yesterday in the last video we implemented two interfaces. Okay, I user details and I user details BL and I user details DL. Okay, so both were required to add as a middleware service here in the configuration service section. Okay, so these middlewares can be added in the multiple ways, like as per the need of the as per the requirement and as per the need of the logic. Okay, so based on that, like we can make the changes here and add these services or middleware in multiple ways. Okay, so this transient, so the transient is actually, here we implemented transient, so transient is actually a lifetime. Okay, so there are basically three lifetimes are being used here: transient, scoped, and transient is scoped, and one more lifetime is there, which is called a singleton. Okay, so and there are different, they have a different implementation, they have a different concept for using, but most of the time like we are using the transient because transient is basically responsible for creating a new instance for the middleware every time when it gets the new call. Okay, so mostly we are using the transient, but yes, we have some different another ways, so we also should be aware about that. Okay, So we have a three different let's see, three different dependency injections lifetime. Okay, so we have a transient, scoped, and singleton. So what is transient? Transient lifetime service are created each time they are requested. Okay, this lifetime works best for lightweight and stateless services. So transient is important. Basically, it's important, and you will be getting frequently this implementation for all the middlewares and services. Okay, so transient is basically used when we are required to create a new instance for every HTTP call. Okay, so and the scoped. So is scoped is also created once per request, but new instance across all the HTTP requests. Like it created once and gets used all time. Okay, till the same HTTP request call is being handled. Okay, whenever the new HTTP call is coming, so scope will get closed and new instance will be created. So this for this single HTTP call, the single instance will be working throughout the request. Okay, like if it is getting a multiple request, so multiple, instead of creating a multiple instance, only single instance will get created. Okay, so scope is limited to the single call. Singleton is also created once. Okay, once for lifetime, you can say, like it's created once, and whenever the request comes, it's a new or different HTTP request, the same instance will get called. Okay, so it will not create a different instance for the call. So three type we can introduce the middleware as a transient way, scoped way, and singleton way. Okay, singleton lifetime service are created the first time they are requested. Okay, and then every subsequent request will use the same instance. The single instance will be used by all the subsequent HTTP requests throughout the application. This is the important. Okay, so singleton is basically, so let's understand once again. So whenever the request comes, so for each request the new instance is created. For that we use the transient. For each request when it is coming, so instance is created, but for the single HTTP request it is using the same instance, but for the different HTTP request it's creating a new instance. Okay, so scoped is only like limited to the single request. Singleton is being used for all the HTTP requests once it is created. Okay, so we also have some singleton class, singleton object. The same way it is also working. Okay, means once instance is created, the second instance will never be created. Only singleton instance will be working throughout the application. Okay, so here you can see, like this way we can implement that: add transient, add scope, add singleton. Okay, so whenever we are implementing the interface or classes, so this way it is implemented. So here you can set transient, scoped, and singleton. So you can see here the first instance transient and the second instance is different. Okay, for the scope the first instance is same, the second instance is also same. For singleton first instance is same, second instance is also same. So in the scoped both instances are same for the single HTTP request. Okay, but for the next HTTP request the instance will be having a different ID. Okay, so this is the transient. Oh, this is the lifetime. Okay, dependency injection lifetime. Transient is equal to singleton. If you're having a doubt, you can put a question. Okay, afterwards we will be understanding hook. Okay, hooks, HTTP hooks, middleware. Okay, so actually we are using both of the things in startup.cs. So that's why I tried to put this concept before starting delete and other action methods. Okay, so that you guys can understand what we are doing. Like I implemented this thing yesterday, but I was knowing you, I did not introduce this thing, so you would not be aware about it, that That's why I picked up like what is this, what is transient, and what is hook, what are the hooks, and what is other implementations. Okay, so we have discussed this thing. So now this thing is, the second thing is this. What is this? Use, map, and run. Okay, so how these configuration are working. Okay, so the run extension is to short circuit the HTTP pipeline immediately. Okay, so see, whenever we are putting a new pipeline like app.run, app.use MVC. Okay, use Swagger, so run is not here. So whenever we are putting the run pipe implementation for the new pipeline, so what is happening? It's a short ending. Okay, it's a short circuit. Like after this particular implementation, there would not be any other implementation of the next pipeline. Okay, so like see here, we implemented two different pipeline, app.run async, and the message is passing return from run, and after the next the same this pipeline, next we implemented one more run pipeline. Okay, just next to this pipeline. Okay, both are in a sequence. So first is use MVC, second is app.run, and third is also app.run. So first pipeline is returning return from run, and the second pipeline is returning this is second run. Okay, so you can see here the means first use MVC. Okay, so after completing this, the second pipeline will executed, and as per the sequence, the third pipeline should get executed. But whenever we are using the run, so what runs does, like runs immediately terminate the execution. Okay, so whenever you will be running this configuration, only second run will get executed, not will third run will never get executed. Okay, so this is the third line. Like if we wanted to terminate the like execution of the pipelines, so on that case we will be using a run as a last one. Okay, so let's understand what is happening here. The nature of run extensions to short circuit the HTTP pipeline immediately. Okay, it is a shortened way to adding a middleware to the pipeline that does not call any other middleware which is next to it. Okay, so like if any pipeline is next to the run pipeline, it will not work. It will not be executed and immediately return HTTP response. So it's recommended to use run extension to hook middleware at last of the pipeline. Okay. So like if we have a 20 pipelines and we wanted to get executed all 20, so we don't need to use any of the pipeline implementation using the run. Okay, so this was the run. So we have a three different hooks: run, use, and map. So run is this, and what is use? Okay, so in case of use extension, there is a chance to pass next invoker so that the HTTP request will be transferred to the next middleware after execution of the current. Use if there is the next invoker is present. In this example, we have attached the next invoker. Okay, so like here you can see the first is return from use. Okay, and the third is this is from run. So first will executed, and then third will executed. So both the response is coming. So like app.use MVC. So basically use is the simple and straightforward. If you are putting the use, so you don't need to worry about whatever the numbers of middlewares implemented there, like it's a 20 pipelines are implemented there, so all 20 pipelines will get executed. It will not block anything, and it will not stop for any other configuration. Okay, so it's a straightforward. So after use, what is map? Okay, so map simply accept a path and a function that configures a separate middleware pipeline. Okay, so basically in the map, as name suggests, so we are mapping some path, like if anyone is calling this path, so this class should get executed. So on that case we are using this map. Okay, so like if we don't have any action method, and if we wanted to like make user aware, like if any user is putting like user slash any independent name, okay, and if we wanted to catch that name with respect of any classes, so we map that class with any dependent class. Like if we have a user, so we want to call user.cs class, so we will map that user path with the user class. So on that case, what happens, like if any client or caller is calling that API, so what will happen, like that API will redirect to the this class implementation. Okay, so this is the, we have a hooked my delegate, okay, path. So when we are performing HTTP call to the same path, the delegate function will get triggered. Okay, so this is extra, like if we wanted to map hard coded paths, so on that case we can use the map. Thank you. Okay, so you can see here any response is coming here. Okay, so delete action method. Next we need to implement the delete action method. So what we implemented it, so we have one method implemented here, so just after it we need to implement one delete method. So we already have a predefined structure for the delete, so let's pick up it. It is not required, it's commented code. Okay, so we will need to put the route configuration so that one more API get introduced in Swagger and client side. So here we will put delete user details by ID. This is thing. Okay, so ID is capital I, so also put here capital I so that both can be on sync. Okay, so we are not returning anything, that's fine, because we are deleting, so it is not recommended to like return anything. We can just pass the like response means it's executed successfully, kind of. So it's a, what is happening here? Okay, delete is already there, so it's causing issue. So it's a API call. Next we need to implement this same in BL and then DL. So let's create a method in, firstly implement the method in interface. Delete user details by, I also told you guys to complete this by yourself, but I don't know whether you completed or not. But let's complete it, it will not take too much time. So one more implementation is required, so directly we can implement interface. Okay, so it's delete user details by ID. Okay, so this one is also implemented, and the problem was ID hard coded. We don't need to put anything hard coded now. So BL is implemented. This one is that somewhere. Let's BL now need to implement the next method in DL. So create one more implementation for the DL as well. Okay. Delete user details by ID. Sync is fine, no problem. Okay, so now the implementation is required. So delete user details by id. Okay, so it was the get user detail. So we can make this method generic, so we will do that thing later, but for the time being we are just creating one more method for the deletion. Okay, so delete user details async. We should also put id here, not hard coded values. Okay, so it's a delete, so delete will call this method this delete. System is getting, so let's select stuff. Okay, so the real query we need to create in SQL developer first, so that we can assure that our code is working. So okay, let's see how many are there. So you can see here 6 records are there. Okay, so select star from user details where user id is equals to 6. Okay, let's see whether it is working or not. Okay, 6 is coming, so we want to delete it. Okay, delete from table where user id is 6. Let's see, after deleting 6 id should not be present one row is deleted. Okay, let's see. You can see 6 1 is not there, so this is the right query we can put there. Okay, just copy this and put there. Delete from user details where user id is this. Just put a screenshot here. This query will get executed, so we don't need to wait or read for anything, so it is returning. Thing is there, but there is no row affected we can return, but I don't think anything is required to return here. So void is good. Integer we can return, or bool we can return, true or false. So bool I think is the right thing. So if it is coming, then it is true. Okay, so this is not required. It is returning to this. So here bool also required, response is not required. Only bool is enough. Okay, the result is bool, so this is not required. Okay, the same way we need to update in everywhere. I think there is no need to return response. So deal delivery. This is fine. I need to update in BL. Okay. So BL is also implementing same way. So let's return it pool. Okay, so it's saying it's still response is coming as a pool. Yes. Get user details by ID. No. Okay, the method name is same. That's why it's creating an issue. Dot delete user details async. Okay. So now BL is implemented. DL is implemented. Let's see about what is about API user controller. The same way we need to implement for the delete. Dot delete user details by ID and return is void in bool. Okay, so async is not there. It is that's creating a problem. Okay, so I think all is implemented. What is this? The return terminal is task. Okay, task bool delete. So our method is implemented here. Let's see how it is working. Now there is issue. Okay, there anything to show. Server all is fine. Don't see any issue. build is succeeded, so it should run for publish. Undefined swagger. So swagger was not loading properly. So the root cause was there this ID. So okay. So this ID was in smaller ID which we actually not declared anywhere in the request body. So whenever we were loading the swagger, so it was not getting from anywhere. That's why it's getting failed. So there are two way of coming out from this issue. Either we can like declare this id on the same way like these ids are declared, because these ids are coming from the query string, you can see. Okay, so whenever this id is coming, so this id will get auto mapped with this id, and if we declare putting this id here, so that will also get mapped with this id. Okay, so either we can do that way, or we can simply remove this and make it a simple http delete method, so it will also work properly. So let's see. Yeah, it's loading now. Okay, so we implement, this was the earlier implementation, this is the current implementation, api slash user slash delete user details by id. So let's check it now. We already deleted 6, so let's try for the 5 one. Okay, execute. So it's coming to our api, actual api, which we needs to map. So let's put one more d. Let's, I think that viewer is already there. Yeah, you can see already viewer is here. So just we need to make sure nothing is breaking, otherwise our code is already tested, so no worry on that. So yes, it's working. Continue. Our response is true, means code executed successfully. Let's see here whether the 5 is deleted or not. End up, yes, 5 is deleted. So like our implementation is proper. Okay, we implemented successfully deletion action method as also. Okay, so now in our API we successfully implemented two different action method. One is get action method and the second one is delete action method. So the third we will be implementing the insert action method. Okay, so that would be responsible for adding a new users to our database. Okay, so these are the two methods we implemented. We learned good in this video, so hopefully you guys understood all the things. So please make sure you are also trying these activities at your end. Okay, so anything else in this video? No. Okay, so thank you so much for the watching. We will be meeting on the next video, okay, in which we will be implementing insertion, and we also try to implement the stored procedure. Okay, so like in this you can see currently we have dl.cs in which we are implementing hard coded string, database string. Okay, so instead of writing this query hard coded, we will be trying to write some stored procedure, and we will call the stored procedure from here, and check out the response, like how it is working inside the environment. Okay, so thank you so much for the watching. Let's meet on the next video. Meanwhile, I will request you all, please continuing your practice so that you can also like get the again the more confidence. Okay, thank you so much.